Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by PewSitter.com, your online Catholic newspaper for the third millennium, CatholicMediaCoalition.org, in line with the Church, online with the world.
And TheAmericanCatholic.com, politics and culture from a Catholic perspective.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of Catholic News Roundup. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Watchdog Wiped Out. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, or the USCIRF, is in its death throes now that the Democrat-controlled Senate is quietly burying it. The USCIRF, an independent agency, has a long track record of results since it was initiated by Virginia Representative Frank Wolf under the International Religious Freedom Act in 1998, founded to name the world's worst religious persecutors and make foreign policy recommendations to the government. The National Review says with the department's mandate about to expire last month, it required unanimous support for the Senate to extend its life, and only one senator is anonymously keeping the resolution from dying, with no disclosed reason why. Though the House has passed a resolution to extend the life of USCIRF for a few more years, if this secret hold is not lifted in the Senate, the group's meager funding will be completely terminated. Social suicide. If you are lonely or you don't have as much money as you think you need, you could very well qualify for assisted suicide in the Netherlands. National Right to Life News reports the Dutch Medical Association is trying to expand its euthanasia program to widen the definition of so-called, quote, unbearable suffering to include what it calls, quote, social factors. Dutch Radio Worldwide says, quote, until now, factors such as income or a patient's social life played almost no role when physicians were considering a euthanasia request. However, the new guidelines will certainly change that, end quote. Other so-called factors taken into account for assisted suicide as you age include loss of dignity, status, an ever-shrinking social network, and a loss of social skills. A matter of consent. Newly enforced laws in Arizona are resulting in a 30% drop in the number of abortions after being active for only 1 month. OneNewsNow.com says while the Abortion Consent Act was passed in 2009, the Supreme Court only just recently ruled it constitutional, putting it into effect on August 11th. The new legislation requires minors seeking abortion to have notarized parental permission, only allows doctors to perform surgical abortions, and requires women to be offered the option of seeing a sonogram of their child before having their abortion. There are also currently only 3 abortion clinics capable of offering abortions out of the 10 in the state due to Planned Parenthood's inability to support the new guidelines for abortion mills to have facilities comparable to other institutions regularly performing surgery. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few seconds.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by NewOxfordReview.org, the voice of Catholic Orthodoxy, in print and on the web, and RenewAmerica.com, expanding the influence of America's grassroots in the cause of freedom.
Rainbow over Westpoint. The Military Academy of West Point is holding its 12th annual Diversity and Leadership Conference this week, fully in the spirit of the recently repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, hosting a prominent atheist and a homosexual author as its key speakers. Cybernet News Service reports Jason Torpy, president of the Military Association of Atheists and Free Thinkers, will speak at 2 sessions of the conference, held to, quote, discuss topics relevant to the future of West Point and the Army. The event will also feature Nathaniel Frank, an author who specializes in, quote, stories of homosexual military personnel, who is known for breaking a story in which the Army was firing homosexual Arabic linguists. Though the conference is put on by West Point, the event receives monetary support from Walmart, ITT, USAA Bank, and GE, among other companies. Ave Maria Misrepresented, a smear piece aimed at Ave Maria University, written in the Miami New Times, is taking sensationalistic language to a whole new, laughable level. The author, Michael Miller, describes the private Orthodox Catholic college community in less than glowing language at the beginning of his 5-page so-called news piece, likening the window of a church to a cyclops eye while its, quote, 100-foot orange brick facade shimmering like scales in the nighttime spotlights, end quote. The Creative Minority Report website couldn't help but point out in its criticism of the article, the picture, which it says one can only assume is meant to represent students for the school in a bad light. Miller writes the piece mostly from the perspective of Marielena Stewart, a conservative who wants to run for senator in 2012, who also apparently has a serious problem with Ave Maria, though she herself reportedly professes to be Catholic. She likens the Catholic College in the article to a, quote, fascist regime, which may or may not win her votes in the upcoming senatorial election next year. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure and tune in tomorrow for your daily dose of Catholic News Roundup right here on RealCatholicTV.com. Also be sure to check out The Vortex today, where Michael talks about fighting the evil in El Paso. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to tell your friends about us. And as always, God bless you.